hi everyone. Welcome to The Hard Answers. I'm Tom Graham. Is there a God? Is versus exists. First and foremost, please understand that I am not asking whether or not God exists. Something that exists can be measured, observed, tested, and test results can typically be reproduced, and that is certainly not what I'm asking. I'm asking, is there a God? Even in the book of Exodus, God did not say, I exist. God said, I am. There are plenty of things that we use every day that don't actually exist. Mathematics doesn't exist. You can't measure 2 because 2 has no width, no depth, no height. It cannot be measured, and therefore 2 and all of mathematics does not exist. It simply is. Richard Dawkins, a devout atheist and anti-theist, says that it is very, very improbable that God exists, but I have to counter that even if the odds of God existing are a trillion to 1, if I get infinite benefit by believing in God, then mathematically I ought to believe in God. But as I said, even the Bible didn't say God exists. It simply said that He is. So the question remains, is there a God? Random versus unpredictable. Next, I'd like to point out the huge difference between the concepts of randomness and the concept of without cause. Randomness simply means unpredictable. Some things are so complex that they become unpredictable. If I get a call from a telemarketer, I couldn't predict it. It is random, but no one would argue that it was without cause. Some things are extremely small, and we lack the technology to measure their inner workings, and therefore they too are unpredictable, uncertain, and random. I can't predict when an electron will shift orbits and release a photon, and therefore it is random. But I know that a mole of an atom, mole of that exact same atom, will give off a specific number of photons every minute. And from that I can logically presume that there are certain machinations, certain events, certain forces interacting, certain causes. Rules still exist, even at that smallest quantum level. Someday, when we learn how to manipulate quantum fields, maybe we'll be able to measure the quantum wake left by photons passing through a section of space, and maybe derive its current location, speed, and orientation from that wake. And the uncertainty principle will no longer apply to things larger than a photon, but it will still apply to things even smaller until we figure out a way to measure them. The uncertainty principle simply means so small that we perceive individual events as unpredictable and therefore random. Not without cause, just unpredictable. Determinism. The foundation of all scientific understanding is that everything happens for a reason. There are no causeless events. An object at rest stays at rest unless acted upon by some other force. An object in motion stays in motion unless acted upon by some other force. Any change in motion is addressed with the question, what caused that change? What acted upon it? The scientific method requires causality for an experiment to be reproducible and predictable. Determinism is the logical conclusion of this line of reasoning. If there are no causeless events in the universe, and you were able to observe everything in the universe at a single point in time, then you have all the knowledge that you need to calculate every event in the past and predict every event in the future. All your actions, your thoughts, your urges are just the logical outcomes of countless interactions of particles and forces. Everything will play out the way it was predicted to play out since the beginning of the universe. So, if you are simply the result of universal gyrations of force and matter and how you can be held, then how can you be held accountable for anything you do? It's not really your choice when you rob a bank, it was just the universe playing itself out. If you don't have free agency, how can you be held accountable? Is it truly justice to punish you for something that you had no control over? With determinism, you have no free will, no rights, no free agency, no responsibility for failures, no credit for successes, no regrets, no happiness. Everything simply is and the universe has a plan that you can't change. The poor have no control over their lives, and neither do the rich. Determinism says you should just accept your place. There's no point in trying to better yourself. Whatever will be, will be. The universe has spoken. Free agency. So how does one claim free agency? One cannot scientifically claim free agency. There's no evidence that you can provide that you're even capable of free agency. The best you can scientifically claim is that you are an extremely complex system, and that complexity gives you the illusion of free agency, and thus the illusion of rights and freedom and justice and all the rest. And you should be content to live within that illusion. All the known evidence points to a deterministic universe in which your body exists. So supposing that you have free agency, whatever it is that you're referring to as you must not exist. Instead of looking to what exists, we have to look to what is. If what I call me was outside of the universe, but could still influence my body, then my body would be capable of free agency within the universe. This part of me that is outside the confines of determinism might be called a soul. If there are souls, the next logical question would be, where did souls come from? But that would be quickly thrown out since souls are not deterministic, so souls did not have to come from anywhere. They may simply be. But in order to form a moral system that is more than simple preference, the souls must look to an authority to create objective standards we can measure actions against. This authority over all souls in a non-deterministic place would be called God. Souls beget free will. Rights, free agency, responsibility for failures, credit for successes, regrets, happiness, a future that is yours to determine. God is the source of objective morality. Without God, all you have is subjective preference. Things are only good or evil, depending on how you look at them. Even a moral imperative has no meaning without an objective standard defining good and bad. So now you have a supposition to approximate what's going on in the universe. That supposition now validates how you measure and how you perceive the universe around you. It seems to affirm your cognitive bias as well about things like justice and rights. Now, you can apply that supposition to other questions that science also can't seem to answer. For instance, where did the universe come from? There are three main possibilities. The universe created itself and is therefore supernatural. The universe has always been and is therefore supernatural. Some other entity created it, and so the universe itself is not supernatural, only the creator is supernatural, and since you haven't actually seen any supernatural events within the universe, this seems to be the most plausible explanation. So now you have yet another question that can be answered with your supposition of God. There's no way to observe anything outside of our universe since our measurements are confined to things within the universe. Although empirically, determinism and no free will is absolutely the most logical option, and our perception of free will may be a simple misunderstanding of complexity, it is still way more fun to believe in God. For most people, a belief in God and all other concepts that come with free agency creates meaning in their lives and is what makes life worth living. So is there a God? I can't answer that for you. That's for you to decide within your conception of a good life. Please click the subscribe button to see more videos like this. If you disagree with me, please leave a comment. My ears are always open and I learn new things every day when people disagree with me. I'm Tom Graham. I'll see you next time on The Hard Answers.